Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. The channel that I'm calling Work in Progress, always evolving. We're still kind of a new channel, so we're kind of, I don't know, feeling our way through what direction to take. However, I have a very, I'm going to call it a strong sense that it would be really good if we all could have conversations with one another, people just like you and me. If I could have conversations with you, I strongly believe that it one would help all of us to share what's going on, our successes, our challenges, and that would be to help one another. And I also believe by sharing our stories, we also can kind of become more of a empathic or compassionate understanding of people possibly that have a little bit different background than we do, or just some different ideas, whatever that is, so that in other words that can be accepted as well. So many things could come out of this idea of just having conversations with everyday people who are definitely trying to navigate as best they can this time that we're going through, this time of evolution, the challenging times that we're in, all of the things that appear to be happening in our external world and can be frightening, scary. Some could maybe be exciting, who knows? But I think if we begin to have conversations about what's happening with us, with others, etc., that then we will find that we're much more alike than not alike. And I believe we can really help one another move in the direction that we're trying to move toward, which is an evolutionary process. So, if this idea even slightly appeals to you, my contact information is right below this video. Click on it and let's have a conversation. Let's see where that can go. Okay, end of my commercial, so to speak. Today I want to talk about the idea of efforting, putting effort in. I spoke about this in the last video that I did, and I was really using the idea of comparing efforting and control being much of the same. But today I just want to talk about effort. And I think what I want to do is kind of put the idea out there is, first of all, why do we put effort into something, whatever that something is? Well, I think if we really looked deep into it, it's because we want something to happen. We are very much wanting a certain outcome of something. We want to have a particular situation change, perhaps, so we put effort into that. And effort comes in all different flavors, right? So, you could put effort into a career. I used the example yesterday of, let's say that you put effort into getting into a particular university. So meaning through high school or through school altogether, you put effort into getting good grades so that then you can get accepted into the right university, so you can then have the career that you've focused on and have the success that you think it'll bring. So we put effort into those things because we're attached to an outcome, right? But when I say it comes in all flavors, it can come in all kinds of different places that we put effort into. We may be putting effort into bodybuilding or into just really having our body look a certain way because we believe that's going to bring us the kind of attention that we want, or the compliments, or maybe our partner that we're looking for. There's so much that goes on around. If you think about it, weight loss, all of that is all over the place on the media, on advertising, like how to lose the weight so that you can look a certain way. And so there's an effort that it takes to go on a particular diet routine, whatever that is. Now, I'm not saying any of this is wrong, by the way. Nothing is wrong, nothing is right, it's just what is. But I think it's a behavior. And I think it can be a behavior that can really be jeopardizing our actual growth that we'd like to have, to where we're headed, to feeling at peace, to feeling fulfilled, etc. Because we put the idea out there, or in there, let's put it that way, inside of us, that if I do this, then I'll get that. And whether we get it or not, oftentimes if we do get it, it's not what we thought it would be, or it's short-lived. Okay, now I've lost my 20 pounds. I look really good. People are giving me compliments. But then at some point down the road, we lose that intention. And so it's short-lived, maybe. On the other hand, it could be that now we get so obsessed with being this certain weight that we become kind of addictive in how and what we're eating, and if we're going to the gym enough. And so that kind of takes a life of its own. So from my point of view, this effort thing blocks what we're really trying to sense and feel in this journey that we're on. And when we are in alignment with what's right for us, it's not efforting, you know? If we're literally in touch with our inner world, with our higher self, we could call it, with our true self, whatever that is, then we're in an alignment, and meaning we're doing whatever we're doing, not that there's a doer to do, but it appears that way, that we're actually moving in a flow with life without being almost addicted, I'm going to call it, the word addicted to an outcome, or obsessive about an outcome. We're just going with the flow of life, because life is just happening. It's happening through this body mind with no efforting at all. You know, you get in the zone. They call it, oftentimes with athletes, they'll say they're in the zone. Or you don't have to be an athlete to have that happen. It can be done through paint. You're an artist and you paint, or you're not an artist but you like to paint, or you're a gardener and you get in the zone while you're doing your gardening. You know, as a can be a particular sport that you're involved in. Years ago, I really was involved in tennis. I was not ever a good tennis player, not even probably mediocre. However, I just loved being involved in it, and my practice would be, which I liked doing, was I'd go to this tennis club we belonged to, and they had a ball machine, and so you could use this ball machine for the different, you know, strokes that you're looking for, and I would get in a zone. I would feel the zone, and there was never any efforting. It was just, the ball comes, hit the ball, miss the ball, whatever happened, next ball comes, and I would be in a zone. And you know, you can get in a zone in certain meditative practices. In automatic writing, I find myself in a zone, meaning I'm not efforting. Everything is just kind of showing up. You know, I think cooks, people that love to cook, they get into the zone. Maybe they're just chopping, but it's in a zone, chopping vegetables, chopping whatever, or measuring for baking something. It's kind of a zone feeling. Again, it's not kind of, it is. This is a zone, and so no efforting. So I think all of us could relate to not being in an efforting place, mindset, but just flowing with whatever it is we're doing. You know, running, that also had been where I feel I got in the zone without efforting. But at the very beginning, when I first started running, I would be efforting. Yeah. at least, working with it because I wasn't used to it. And it was taking me time to kind of get my rhythm, so to speak. And then at some point, I could just run and be in the zone. I don't run anymore. At this time in my life, I walk, but I don't run. But the zone, that's that zone feeling. And it's a really good feeling. It's like a high in a way, but it isn't. It's just the opposite of efforting because it's just flowing. And so we can do that also with whatever it is of our way of living. And so if we're not attached to a particular outcome or a particular way or a particular something, then we can be in what we could call the zone. We're not efforting. And you can feel the difference all the time. It's so obvious. For me, I know a place where I'm not in the zone and I am efforting is when we entertain, and that my what do I want to call it? Lack of confidence in cooking or entertaining correctly, whatever that is. It's more around food, but I also then wanted to be presented in a certain way, and I have a whole expectation, an outcome of this entertaining. So I effort when it comes to entertaining. Now, not 100% of the time, if it's just, good friends or maybe some relatives, then I'm not as efforting during that time. But, it's something I work on and I want to be more comfortable with it, but I'm not. So there it is. So and what happens with that then is like I don't really want to entertain that often because it's the efforting. Or I want to find a more simple, comfortable way, which nothing's wrong with that either. Nothing's wrong with any of this, by the way. It's just a way to discover our behaviors and why we do something. And so in this case, it's where do you effort? Where do you put effort out? And how does that compare to something that you don't put effort into and you're just in the now moment? You're just in that happening of it. You see? Because I truly do know from my experience, and I'm sure you do too, that when you're efforting, it's not in a flow. It's kind of like that's when mistakes really happen, and then they don't even enjoy whatever it is that you've been efforting to do. And then oftentimes, because you're attached, we're attached to the outcome, then being attached to the outcome makes it more stressful, right? So I ask myself, well, where did this efforting come from? I go within self-inquiry to see where did it all begin. And so I can easily go back to my childhood. I'll use the example of entertaining, and that my mother had a lot of stress around entertainment or entertaining or having people over. And so I picked up on that energy. And so it's what do I want to call it? In a way, it's kind of not big trauma, but a belief that I picked up on, okay? And I picked up that it's scary or it's not fun to entertain. The opposite of that was my grandmother and my aunt, my mother's mother and my mother's sister, loved to cook and loved to entertain. So from their point of view, and what I would see there was just a happening, just I don't know, a positive something. And they weren't into perfection around it at all. It was like it just flowed. It just flowed. So, when I look back on my childhood, I can see where I picked up the energy of, okay, entertaining is scary. You got to put effort into it. And then it probably won't even come out the way you wanted it to. So these are really simple examples, but they're real examples. And we never know where this is taking us unless we examine it. So, if you find yourself in certain areas efforting, I think a couple questions are there. One is maybe this is something you just don't need to do, don't have to do, don't want to do, whatever it is, because it's taking effort. It's not a natural part of you. Or you could look at it like I've looked at it. Where is this belief coming from? And even though the emotion is still there, I can start to loosen the grip a bit on the perfection that I'm looking for when I'm entertaining. Or I can become aware of it, at least, in the very least, and then kind of chill with it a bit. Or the other thing that's helped me, and then this is just about entertaining, is to come up with a menu that can be done way ahead of time. So I'm not trying to juggle the social side of having people over and wanting to be, involved with the people, and at the same time trying to complete something that we're making for dinner. Now, my husband is definitely comfortable with cooking, and he doesn't have these issues with entertaining. But at the same time, he and I have kind of a different, I guess, result we're looking for. Anyway, so what I've started to look at is, well, what kind of menu, what kind of foods could we do that are already prepared, and we're not being in the kitchen or trying to be in both places, in the kitchen and out where we're serving hors d'oeuvres and drinks and blah, 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 and being with people. All this sounds, I make it sound very complicated, but it's probably how it feels to me. But it is a simple example of there are approaches. So in other words, I may always have, and I think I will at this point in my life, I still have excuse me, these emotions around how I feel, or how I'm kind of obsessed with a particular outcome when it comes to entertaining. And I've come to places where I've lessened, very much so, lessened the stress around it, but it's still there. So what if I can find then some alternatives that will even help me more, like having the food already prepared? And so I do enjoy setting tables and making pretty flower arrangements and that type of thing. So then I can be doing that feels more comfortable to me. More, no, maybe not in the zone, but at least it's something I feel more confident with, I guess you could say. So I can spend the time in the day of the dinner doing that, and everything would be maybe made in the morning, or I don't know how that works, or ready to put in the oven, type things. So there's a solution that way. So we have alternatives, is I guess what I'm trying to point out. But I think the point also that I want to make is to begin to notice the difference between whatever it is that's happening. Are you efforting around it? Do you have a attachment to a particular outcome? And to begin to realize that that is blocking your intuitive side, the flow of life. You know, there's uncertainty with it. If you're caught up in a particular efforting thing, there's an uncertainty that can come in as a concern, like you want things to be a certain way, but you don't know if you have enough, if that's going to happen, so you start efforting more. Just using this one particular idea, because I think we all as humans have different ways, different things that we put effort into. And I think then the question is, how is this behavior, or how is this belief of you need to effort, you putting in this extra whatever, how is that impacting you? How is that maybe causing stress for others perhaps? And is there an alternative as well? And can you see where it started, going back in time? And is there a way to kind of reframe? how we think. Now, you can't effort to reframe either. It has to come in a natural way, right? But if you can begin to see through this efforting and find some ways to shift it, that's huge. That's just huge. Because it depends on how much efforting we do. Some people effort on everything, you know. But most probably have certain areas that we effort into. So I am suggesting here that rather than doing things from the efforting point of view, let's start to shift that if we can. You know, it's all okay. It doesn't matter. If you can't, you can't. But it's a way possibly to have a more or a less stressful time in our life, or to shift it completely, you know. It could be that this effort thing is so big for us that it's complicating and really having a dramatically negative experience for us. So that's just another way to kind of take a look at what's going on inside, what's happened, and start to see if we can shift it. The bottom line is we need to discover where our beliefs came from. How did we get into this belief? They're not ours. We're not the belief, but we take it on as if they are ours and we are the belief. But once we can discover where this happened, like for instance, my mother was very uncomfortable and anxious around entertaining, and I picked up on that energy, and then I turned it into a belief that you need to be anxious and effort a lot to entertain, and it's not a positive thing. So as I can see where it started, I can then release myself somewhat from I'm not that, and I can then see, at least, if nothing else, why I feel that way, okay? Whether it changes or not doesn't really matter, probably, you know? If I try to effort to change it, well, I'm hooked. That's not going to help, is it? But that can happen. You can effort to change it. So, not to make this all sound so complicated or so, I don't know what to call it. I guess it's complicated. It could sound complicated. That's not what I might want this message to be. It's more of just a matter of, it's a pointing to where we are attached to outcomes. And when we're attached to outcomes, if you look deeply, you will discover that you put effort into whatever that is because you want a certain outcome. And then if that outcome doesn't happen in the way that you expect it to, which, you know, at least 50% of the time it probably doesn't, and probably more, then you suffer. So let's just go back in time for ourselves and say, where did this begin? So I hope that makes sense. I hope it helps somebody. I think it's common for all of us that we have these situations around being attached to a particular outcome. And again, nothing's wrong with that. And of course, it's natural that we would be attached to certain outcomes. Obviously, we're not looking to have the negative things happen. However, it can be, as a belief, it can take us down the wrong road. So again, that's more of accepting what is versus than being attached to how we want something to be. Again, it's natural. So, enough said, I think, about that, right? So in the meantime, until the next video publishes, I'd like to ask you to like the video. If you do, click like. Also, subscribe, so that way you'll know when I've got videos coming up. And comment. I'd love to hear what your point of view is on this idea, or how maybe you've discovered ways to work with this efforting thing. So I'd love to hear that. And if you would like to have a conversation with me, whether it be about efforting or anything else, click on that link below the video, get in contact with me, and let's see what we can make happen. In the interim, between now and the next video. I want you to take care, be kind to yourself. I know I say that all the time because it's something I'm constantly working on. I think as a culture right now, or a species, as a human species, better said that way, we're trying to learn what it really means to be kind to ourselves. Sounds kind of crazy in a way. We just don't understand this. So we're not kind to ourselves, and our self-talk can be horrendous. So we're all, I think, that are on this path, so to speak, are trying to really pick this up on a very, what do I want to call it, internal level. Not something that's just an idea, but rather something that we can really take in and feel it and do it and be it. Okay, so until the next time, hope to see you next time. By the way, thanks for showing up even now, and I'll see you soon. As you know, I have this clicker that I click off, and it does, I think it's in my head, but for some reason it takes me several clicks, can't even say that, several clicks to click off. Let's see what happens today.